Race 2 of the opening round of the ADAC GT Masters 2022 season. It is a glorious sunny day here at the Oschersleben Motorsports Arena. Good afternoon, everyone. You can see that this arena is absolutely buzzing. It's buzzing because the crowd are on the terraces. It's buzzing because the 2019 GT Masters champion is on pole position. Patrick Niederhauser did a fantastic job in qualifying this morning, recording the fastest ever official time around the Oschersleben circuit. And alongside him on the grid is the 2017 champion, Jules Gounon, who was also very, very rapid in qualifying this morning. This is set fair to be a fantastic race. We have a lot of quality in this race, and a lot of it is at the sharp end of the grid. There is Jules Gounon in the brand new team, Drago Racing Team ZVO, and they haven't taken any time at all getting up to speed with that Mercedes AMG. It's an Audi on and a Mercedes on the front row. There's another Mercedes third on the grid, Raffaele Marchiello. We're told watch out for the yellow Mamba because the Manfilter Team Landgraf car, particularly in the hands of that man there. His hair's blonde this time round. It was green last time I looked. He is exceptionally rapid in the GT3 category. Albert Costa Balboa, an entertainer in his own right for Emilfray Racing. We welcome Emilfray Racing to the GT Masters this year. Costa Balboa starts fourth on the grid. So we have an Audi, we have two Mercedes, we have a Lamborghini, and defending champion Riccardo Fella lining up fifth on the grid. Not only is he the defending champion, he's yesterday's winner, and he was very rapid indeed yesterday. Of course, Riccardo Fella is sharing driving duties with Yusuf Avega, and you can see from the points classifications there that Avega and Fella are at the top of the points, courtesy of their win yesterday. Frank Pereira and Arthur Rougier are in second place on the grid, in the championship, but further back down the grid today. Not the best qualifying sessions for them. Another Rutronic racing car in the hands of Dennis Marshall lines up sixth on the grid, and then alongside him we have Nicky Katzberg, the first of the brand new BMW M4 cars, and Nicky Katzberg, the 2020 Nürburgring 24-hour race winner. He is a very welcome addition to the grid. Adam Weller, it is looking like absolute quality at the front. I wouldn't like to call who's going to be into into turn two first in this one, would you?
No, not on my life would I want to make a prediction on that front, but it's a fabulous looking grid. As you say, lots of quality at the sharp end. A couple of drivers as well who perhaps would have expected to be up in the top 10 that aren't, so there are going to be some working from a little further back than they'd expect, but out front there, quite the first two rows. Niederhauser, Gounon, Marchiello and Costa Balboa. That's a very tasty, and then of course Riccardo Fella in fifth as well, and Marshall. Really can't, you just keep going, really, couldn't you? But I think in particular what's going to interest me is once Niederhauser hands over to Luca Engstler, possibly in a very strong position. Luca, new to GT3 cars, of course, from a front-wheel drive touring car in TCR Germany. However, there's one thing that never escapes a touring car driver, it's defensive driving. If he gets that car in a strong position, I'm very much looking forward to seeing his elbows very, very out.
Well, Luca Engstler said yesterday that he was pretty nervous before the start of that race. If the car is still towards the front in the hands of Patrick Niederhauser, when the time comes for him to take the wheel, he is really going to be tested. As you mentioned already, he comes from TCR Germany. He is in fact the reigning champion in ADAC TCR Germany. He was announced as an Audi driver over the winter period, and we've been very excited to see him behind the wheel of the Audi. He has taken to it like a duck to water. There is another of the defending champions, Christopher Mees. He's a little way back in 12th place on the grid, so he's got a bit of work to do there. This year, he is sharing with Tim Zimmerman, so there has been an amicable parting between Christopher Mees and Riccardo Fella. They stayed both within the Monteplas by Land Motorsport team, but now have different co-drivers. Sven Muller, another quality name, just quality through and through this field. field. It really is looking spectacular. Albert Costa Balboa, who's starting fourth on the grid, of course, is sharing driving duties with Jack Aitken, and we were really excited that Jack has been announced as part of the Emil Frey racing team in the GT Masters this year. Didn't have a great time of it yesterday afternoon, did he?
No, not really. The first couple of laps tripped up a few people, Jack Aitken unfortunately included. Did manage to set some good pace in his stint, but sadly quite a way off the rest of the cars. So he'll be hoping to have a better run of it in this second race. Of course, he'll inherit the car halfway through after Costa Balboa has hopefully scythed his way through the order. Jack Aitken will be watching with keen interest.
Well, Albert Costa Balboa is an absolute entertainer, and he does like to get stuck in.
Yes.
And we love Albert for that very reason. He is also one who does tend to wear his heart on his sleeve. You know exactly what he's thinking just by looking at his face. You can see there that the 1 minute board has been already shown, and very shortly we're going to be getting ready to go racing here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. Temperatures are absolutely perfect, 16.4 degrees centigrade. It was pretty nippy in qualifying this morning. Drivers were struggling to get heat into the tyres, but now the day and the circuit has warmed up significantly, and it is absolutely perfect. We have no rain in the forecast. The skies are blue. The terraces are full of people. What more could you want? We are on the eastern outskirts of the town of Oschersleben, around 20 miles southwest of Magdeburg, the gorgeous city of Magdeburg in central Germany. A beautiful place to visit. And if you ever want to come to the area, I would highly recommend Magdeburg. This circuit itself, which has been around for a number of years, is 3.667 kilometers around. It has 14 turns, 7 of them are to the left and 7 of them are to the right. The car's racing in a clockwise direction. Not a great deal of gradient change, although a fair bit around the back section of the track. There's a little bit of downhill, a little bit of uphill, about 23 meters in total of gradient change. It is, in the ADAC calendar, probably the track that is the hardest to overtake on. Let's have a look at the starting grid for this afternoon's race. On the pole position, Patrick Niederhauser, the 2019 champion, alongside the 2017 champion, Jules Gounon for Drago Racing Team ZVO. Next up, Raffaele Marciello with Albert Costa Balboa for Emil Frey Racing. They make up their second row of the grid. The third row of the grid features defending champion Ricardo Feller and Dennis Marshall, another Rutronic Racing cars. It's an all Audi row 3 of the grid. Row 4, Nicky Kasberg for the local Schubert Motorsport and Matthias Drudy from Car Collection Motorsport. Row 5 of the grid, Daniel Junkadea, good to have him here, and Norbert Siedler. So that's a Mercedes alongside an Audi. And then row 6 of the grid is Consta Lapalainen making his debut in the GT Masters, and another defending champion, Christopher Mees. Row 7, Sven Muller and Arthur Rougier. Arthur Rougier, another debutant in GT Masters here this weekend. And then on row 8 of the grid, Marcus Winkelhock, an absolute legend of motor racing, and Elias Seppänen, who we weren't sure whether he was going to make it or not, but has done a grand job in qualifying to get that car there. Christopher Haase, the first ever GT Master champion, and Ian Shanguven line up on the row behind them, and then Marco Mappelli and Robert Renaud on row 10. The back row of the grid is made up of Ezequiel Perez-Compang for Mad Panda Motorsport and Niklas Kruten for Schubert Motorsport. It's been a pretty hard weekend for him, but he's done really well, and he brings up the rear of the field. You can see the cars are now in the closing part of their formation lap. The safety car ducks into the pit lane. You can see Patrick Niederhauser in the blue Audi on the left-hand side of your picture. We're waiting for those 5 red lights to go out, and we are go for race 2 of the ADAC GT Masters 2022. It's Patrick Niederhauser who has the jump into turn 1, the really difficult hotel turn. Are we going to get all the cars through? Absolutely brilliant stuff. It looks like they've all survived, but there's a challenge for the lead at the front. It's Patrick Niederhauser and Jules Gounon going hammer and tongs at the front of the grid. There's a few cars that have picked up a little bit of dirt. The cars head towards Hasserode, and it looks like Jules Gounon has swept around the outside of Patrick Niederhauser. Now Niederhauser coming under pressure from Marciello. So Raffaele Marciello still in P3 at the moment, but our leader, Jules Gounon, has got the jump on Patrick Niederhauser, and now Raffaele Marciello looking like he's going to find a route past Patrick Niederhauser as well. So keep an eye on Raffaele Marciello.
Marciello on the attack, then also on the attack, Nicky Katzberg. He got himself up to 5th place with a great first lap. The 28 car has gone for a spin. Christopher Haase. Oh, that's a bad start for him. Then there goes Katzberg. He's making the move for 4th position. He bets his way past Costa Balboa. It's a great start from the Dutch driver, and he was muscling his way past Ricardo Feller at turns 2 and 3, and he's made short work of Costa Balboa. That BMW, I don't know what they've done to it overnight, but they found the motoring equivalent of Weetabix.
Well, they said they were going to be developing it throughout the season. They've been developing it throughout the weekend, haven't they? So Jules Gounon crosses the line. He's already got 1.1 second over Patrick Niederhauser, Marciello in 3rd, then Katzberg, Costa Balboa down to 5th. And then Ricardo Feller, Dennis Marshall and Mattia Drudi, Daniel Juncadella and Christopher Mees. A good start from him. He's up into 10th place. Christopher Haase had that moment earlier on. He's now dropped down to the last place, but he will work his way back from there. Great shots there from our drone as we come out of the Hasserode corner down towards turn 4. As we mentioned already, not a lot of overtaking opportunities. The best is probably into turn 1 as the cars race along the pit straight and in towards the hotel turn. A really unusual corner. This section here, which is turns 11 and 12, well, it's not really a turn, is it? They just bump over it. It's a straight line straight through the corners.
So the Jules Gounon already building a gap over Niederhauser. Marciello behind him in 3rd. We thought the Raffaele was an impending leapfrog, didn't we? But I don't think that's going to be the case at the moment. Niederhauser seems to have got the new for 2022 Pirelli rubber up to temp now. He seems to have got the car going, and if anything, Marciello may be acutely aware of the fact that suddenly there's an imposing black BMW behind him that wasn't there 2 laps ago, and he may be wondering if Katzberg has him next on the list.
So brilliant driving from Nicky Katzberg. That's definitely the story of the race so far, isn't it? Jules Gounon leading the way, Patrick Niederhauser in 2nd. Just to remind you, this race is 1 hour in length. We've got an incident under investigation. You saw Christopher Haase off onto the grass, and that would have been an encounter with Ian Chen Guven, a driver that we're really happy to welcome to ADAC GT Masters this year. Of course, he was in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany last year and pushed Larry Tenford all the way to the championship, just missing out in the final stages. We're looking there at a replay of the start. You can see, what was that, almost 5 abreast. It's bad enough getting around that corner in single file, not to mention like that. And all credit to these drivers. They are the absolute best in GT3 racing. And Christopher Mees, he's up there, a 2-time champion, the defending champion in GT Masters racing. You saw him just trying to find a little bit of space on the outside. Marciello, you discount Raffaele Marciello at your peril. The never say die driver, always got his elbows out, always ready for a scrap, and very nearly made it into the lead. You can see Jules Gounon just finding that space. Niederhauser leaving a gap on the inside, and that's all that Gounon needed, and the Frenchman was through and into the lead. Now this will be good. The view from Nicky Katzberg, and you can see from the BMW, he darts to the left. A big gap on the inside. He's quite brave with his braking, wouldn't you say, Adam?
Brave with his braking, and also immaculately timed getting on the throttle at the beginning. He just seemed to catch the row ahead of him, sleeping a little bit. He timed it to perfection, managed to make up, 3 places. A little bit of a knock to the side you might have spotted there. That was him and Ricardo Feller getting acquainted on the exit of turn 2. But otherwise, a very good first lap for Schubert, who I'm sure have some fans, friends and employees here on the spectator banks today.
Yes, the Schubert Motorsport headquarters. Oh, and there is a replay of Guven and Haase getting together. A little bit of a tap from Guven, and that's what the stewards are going to be having a look at. And actually Haase did well to not pick up any damage, and Cruton did well not to give him a head-on, to be quite honest. So Nicholas Cruton suddenly with a Audi filling his windscreen has to take avoiding action, and this is the view from Guven, and there's not a lot of secrets when you've got these onboard cameras, are there? Guven and Haase get together, Haase goes spinning. We'll let you know as and when the stewards make their decision, but Guven is down in 19th anyway.
And there's always this frantic scramble on the steering wheel, the knobs on the steering wheel when you're in that situation. Christopher Haase, you saw him kind of smoke up the rear tyres, but then almost like stall out, and that's because the traction control is kicking in. I've seen it happen before, notably several years ago at Brands Hatch. Alex Zanardi tried to do a 180 to get back in the right direction, ended up going into the gravel because the traction control was still engaged. You've really got to, make sure you've got the right knob and get the traction control disengaged so you can loop the car back around. Sounds simple, but in practice, when you're facing the wrong way in a race, a bit more difficult.
Definitely pressing all the right knobs at the moment is Nicky Katzberg in P4. That is such an impressive run, and Albert Costa Balboa will be very frustrated that he's down in 5th at the moment, but it doesn't look like he's got any plans on making that a long-term position to stay in. He's hounding the BMW. As we mentioned earlier, the M4 has come in to replace the M6 this year, and it's very much at the start of its development curve. The teams have been working hard with it over testing and over the winter. It gets better and better with every race. It was pretty good yesterday. It's exceptionally good here today. That's a view we're expecting to see a lot of this year out of the rear view mirror of the BMW, and he's looking back at Albert Costa Balboa.
Yes, the M4 GT3, it's got a lovely imposing stance to it. There's nothing more exciting than a front-engined GT3 car. They just look so good.
We've got a drive-through penalty for Ian Chen Guven for that collision. It didn't take long for the stewards to make that decision. We had a feeling that might be incoming, so it's not the debut in the GT Masters that he particularly wanted. Ian Chen Guven is going to be relegated to the back of the pack, which is a real shame, because yesterday he and teammate Christian Engelhardt came home in 6th place, which was an exceptional start to the championship. I know they are one of your tips, Adam, for the championship this year, aren't they? And they're very powerful pairing, but it's going to be a very low score from this race after that drive-through penalty.
It's going to be an uphill battle, certainly, but I feel that Ian Chen Guven is someone who can adapt quite well. I wouldn't mind betting that by the time they pitch up to the Red Bull Ring, certainly by the time they pitch up to Zandvoort, round 3 of the season, I suspect that they might be a little further up the grid come the races.
Well, we were about to say a little while ago, about 10 minutes ago in fact, this race is 60 minutes long, plus 1 lap. It's a timed race. There is a pit stop window that will open 25 minutes into the race, and at that point the window will be open for 10 minutes. During that 10 minutes, every car must visit the pit lane and make a mandatory stop and a driver change, and then the window will close after 10 minutes. You can also see a graphic in the bottom corner of your screen there that says Race Laps for Wells in Africa, which is an initiative between the ADAC and BWT, Best Water Technologies, who have such a big influence with the ADAC. And for every completed race lap in the ADAC GT Masters, the BWT and ADAC are jointly donating €4 to Be Water Mission as we watch Ian Chen Guven coming in to take his drive-through penalty. The Be Water Mission, a project of Aqua Pearls for You and Planet Blue Foundation, providing drinking water, clean drinking water in areas of the Gambia and Tanzania. Really, really important. Back to the action on your screens, and that drive-through penalty is going to seem exceptionally difficult for Ian Chen Guven. We're looking at the reason he's got that, and that was getting into the back of Christopher Haase and turning that Audi around. This year, the pit lane speed limit has been reduced from 60 kilometers an hour to 50, so those drive-through penalties are going to hurt doubly now, because the cars have to go through that much slower, and that will be an awful lot of time. Guven rejoins 22nd and last in this race.
Yes, certainly it's a harsh punishment, but you can certainly argue that the crime fits. 50 kilometers an hour, that's 31 miles an hour. That's a very slow pace to be trundling along that long pit lane here.
I'm just looking at our timing screen. So Jules Gounon is falling back into the clutches of Patrick Niederhauser, or indeed Patrick Niederhauser is racing forwards into the clutches of Jules Gounon. I was looking at the timing screen, 0.4 of a second is the gap at the moment. We're going to keep an eye on that because Patrick Niederhauser looks like he's planning a comeback and is going to have another shot at the front of this race. Of course, the new Audi, the Evo 2 Audi this year, is a lot more drivable, apparently, has a larger setup window, doesn't need to be quite so finely tuned, and the Audi, I mean, that R8 is an absolute rip-roaring success story in GT3 racing and indeed in all sorts of other GT categories, and the latest Evo of it has appears to have been a really big upgrade. The Mercedes AMG currently leading the way, and there's a Mercedes AMG in third place, so it's very much a Mercedes sandwich with an Audi making up the filling. Then it's a BMW and a Lamborghini, and the fifth place Lamborghini is also starting to turn the heat up on Nicky Katzberg. Nicky Katzberg going to find that fourth place increasingly difficult to keep hold of.
Yes, and some good fights further back, including the other BMW, the kind of junior car, if you will. Both drivers assigned to the Junior Cup element of ADAC GT Masters. That's number 10. Currently being driven by Nicolas Cruton, will be taken over by Ben Green later. This is the battle for 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th place. They've packed together nicely. It's Seppänen, who you mentioned. We weren't sure that car was going to come out today after a bit of an incident in qualifying for Frankie Bird yesterday. Great to see the car back out there and running, and doing so competitively as well. For now, holding off Robert Renaud in the 911 GT3R. Renaud, Porsche, he's done a few thousand laps, so if you're ahead of him, you're probably doing okay. You really are. And I have to say, big credit to Elias Seppänen. This is an awful lot of pressure for him. He didn't get to race at all yesterday. This is his debut in the ADAC GT Masters. It's his first race. He was in the ADAC Formula 4 in 2020 and was very competitive indeed, the young Finnish driver. And we really did feel for him yesterday that he didn't get to sit behind the wheel of that car. He is showing very well. He's qualified well, and there he is in 16th place. And as you've already said, Adam, to stay in front of Renaud on any level is pretty good. Robert Renaud in the number 44 Porsche, running for ID Racing plus Herbert Motorsport. And ID Racing is the boss is Iris Dorr, and she set up this team fresh for this year and in collaboration with Herbert Motorsport, and a potent driver combination of Robert Renaud, who is of course the 2018 ADAC GT Master champion, and Klaus Bachler sharing the driving duties. Yep, that would be in the Porsche sweepstakes, wouldn't it? That would be up there as a team you'd want to do if you're on, say, Fantasy Draft League or something like we do in some other sports. That would be well up the list. Here is Jules Gounon, and well, he's done a lot of racing and a lot of driving in the last 7 days in Mercedes AMG GT3 machinery. At the start of the week, found himself at Alton Park at Lockheads with Adam Carroll, who was driving an Audi. The Audi finished ahead of him in the first race there. He's now got an Audi behind him, and I'm pretty sure he's determined to not do any more studying of the back of the Evo 2 Audi R8 LMS.
Boy, did Gounon entertain us at Alton Park last week, certainly in that first race. Now, looking at the timing screens, he has actually stretched his legs a bit now, so he's opened up about 0.3 from Patrick Niederhauser in second. So it does look as though Gounon has got a handle on this race. Of course, with these new tyres and rumoured to maybe degrade a little bit quicker, it's all about the long game. What you don't want to do is hand the car over to a teammate with no tyres left on it. It's about preserving the car, the tyres, the brakes, so they go the full hour, that they're not all completely worn out by the time they come in for the mandatory pit stop. And Gounon, who is a wily old dog, will be pacing himself, pacing the car, and not taking too much out of it too early on. We're looking there at, that's Elias Seppänen again with Renaud flashing his lights behind. And there is Christopher Haase, who has recovered back up to 20th place. He's found his way in front of Ezequiel Perez-Campang, and we welcome Campang to the GT Masters, well, back to the GT Masters. He certainly has been here over the years, but a brand new team, the Mad Panda Motorsport team, have decided to make their debut in the GT Masters. We long to see the Mad Panda on the podium because we want to see the Mad Panda itself on the podium. There's a scary apparition if ever you saw it. A giant panda, their team sponsor, but great to have Mad Panda on the grid. Currently, it's a baptism of fire, running in 21st and learning as they go. And Yanis Fitcher is the other driver in that team. Our leader continues to be Jules Gounon for Patrick Niederhauser. Focus there, Elias Seppänen, and Seppänen running for Manfilter Team Landgraf Mercedes AMG. And his teammate Raffaele Marciello is all the way up in 3rd place. And was looking at Haase coming back through the grid after that earlier incident. Christopher Haase, the first ever GT Masters champion. He is part of the fixtures and fittings here. I don't mean that in a rude way. He is just somebody who's always there, come hell or high water, and always very welcome. A really experienced pilot, and doing a great job because he has Simon Vega, the young driver, as his teammate, and Vega is just 16 years old. What a mentor to have. You're Christopher Haase. At 16 years old, you've got Christopher Haase as your mentor. I mean, it doesn't come a lot better than that, does it?
No, that's very much, Haase himself is very much a student of the game and a very good teacher as a result of it. I felt rather validated by that replay. I thought the Perez compank had rather made it very easy on the main straight there, and we kind of got the replay to confirm that. It was alarmingly slow, really, in a straight line, the Perez compank car. He doesn't seem to have lost too much time on the last lap, but maybe they're just having some minor issues with their Mercedes today.
Niederhauser has just pegged back about a little under a tenth from Jules Gounon, but it doesn't feel as though he's making massive inroads at the moment. So the 1, 2, 3, very much the same. In fact, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, very much the same. We have Marciello in 3rd, Nicky Katzberg 4th, Albert Costa Balboa still in 5th. Yesterday's winner, Ricardo Feller in 6th, Dennis Marshall, Mattei Drudi, Daniel Juncadella and Christopher Mees rounding out the top 10. Sven Muller is moving forwards though. He's just passed Arthur Rougier, and that is for P12. So Sven Muller is moving forwards through the pack, and Muller, who is such an experienced driver. We have an incident between cars 19 and 22 under investigation. And I can see you waving at the screen, so you carry on.
Well, that's because it's those two drivers. I was about to say, Muller, you're saying he went through, and I was sat there looking at the timing screen and wondering, yes, but for how long? Yes. The investigation notification came up, and then race control wiped all of the bulletins, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But Sven Muller managed to get through, but the question is, by what manner?
And of course, that number 22 car was thoroughly entertaining yesterday, not just in the hands of Sven Muller, but also in co-driver Joel Sturm. I don't think we've ever seen anybody take the first corner of their GT Masters career quite like we did Joel Sturm yesterday. He kept it all pointing in the right direction. It was a heroic move into that corner, and he made it stick. But I would say keep an eye on Muller and Sturm throughout this season, because they are going to be there or thereabouts. They are part of Allied Racing. We welcome Allied Racing to the GT Masters. They've been part of GT4 and Porsche Carrera Cup Germany for a number of years, and it's great that they've stepped up to the big league. Currently running in 12th place at the moment, but as already mentioned, the stewards are looking at the incident between them and the number 19 Arthur Rougier car, and there may be a change in positions. Again, Elias Seppänen and Robert Renaud running in a single file, but Renaud is starting to look increasingly impatient. And Elias Seppänen, I said it once, I'll say it again, this really is a baptism of fire for him, and he's doing a great job just keeping that car in front.
Yes, I noticed there the front bonnet was flapping wildly. It shouldn't be too much of an issue, I grant you, but hopefully that doesn't get too much nasty, otherwise the bonnet pins will be tested for their structural integrity.
Beautifully done. Marco Mabelli in the number 71 car is behind Robert Renaud, as you can see from the graphic there. Mabelli, who is a real entertainer, a little bit hauled up there in the T3 Motorsport Lamborghini Huracan. He's sharing with Maximilian Paul. They got a 12th place yesterday in that race, and We're looking to improve on that. 18th is not where they were planning on racing when they got out of bed this morning. There's no doubt about that.
There was contact there. There is a lot of contact. Yes, so Renaud really got into the back of Sepinen there. That was going on for a good 50, 100 meters potentially. And, well, we've seen some things come under investigation. I give it about 30 seconds.
That will be up there. There is no doubt that's going to appear on our screen. It appeared that Renaud just used Sepinen as a brake. Clearly getting a little bit fed up with trying to work his way past. He has let him pass, does he? I'm just trying to
No, they've rejoined in that order. So funnily enough, in all of his efforts and hubris to get past, he didn't actually do
it. Past, no. It wasn't even subtle, was it? Kind of stock car racing tactic into the corner, just helping Sepinen on, and a little bit harsh for the young driver. Here we go again. You can see Sepinen moves to the outside, and Renaud just keeps pushing and pushing. Unless, of course, Sepinen was slowing for some reason, but I don't think he was. And the two cars off into the gravel. They both rejoined, and as you correctly said, actually Renaud only lost. He gained nothing out of that. That will be doubly frustrating for him because he's not even got past anybody. He's just let through a whole stream of cars, and he's still got Sepinen in front of him.
I'm just wondering if he couldn't actually get the car back from underneath the Mercedes, because the contact happened initially a long while ago. We got some rally crossing going on. Is that Chris Mees?
Yes, Christopher Mees, I think.
Goodness me, that's not something we see often. Christopher Mees, who's been driving Audi GT3 cars practically as long as there have been Audi GT3 cars to drive, but he's, well, maybe investigating a career with the Dakar program or something. That was a bit of an off-track excursion.
But he was running in 10th place, but he's lost a place because of that little excursion. He's down in 11th now. He really wants to get his championship challenge back on track as we look at Jules Gounon and Patrick Niederhauser. 0.6 of a second separate them at the moment. Gounon doesn't look like he's going anywhere fast in terms of the lead of this race. He is a man who is notoriously difficult to get past because he just knows where to put the car on the track and how to win races. Jules Gounon, the previous champion, he's sharing driving duties with Fabian Schiller. And Fabian Schiller is new to the ADAC GT Masters, and he is going to have an awful lot of pressure on his shoulders when it comes to be his turn to take over the wheel of that car. So, 37.5 minutes into remaining of this race. We are about 2.5 minutes away from the pit window. This race is absolutely melting away. We're looking there at the no further action. Well, there is that's interesting. I wonder if your theory that they got hooked together might actually be the case. I mean, or maybe Sepinen slowed or had an issue. Whatever it is, no further action. So,
I mean, regardless of my theory, I'm still very surprised that it's considered a racing incident, but that's the decision. They've got more camera angles and more eyes on it than we do, so that's the decision that they've made. We were taking a look at Danny Unkadea there. Great to have him with us in the familiar pink Merc get-up, and Danny, about a decade ago, was on an absolute conquest in Formula 3. He had one of the best seasons in Formula 3 history. He's gone on to be a Mercedes factory driver and compete all over the world in various saloons, cars and GT cars, and how wonderful to welcome him to the championship.
Absolutely, and a real asset to the ADAC GT Masters, and we're expecting great things from him. No pressure, mate, as the year progresses. You can see the leading pack of cars as they come streaming through. Still, Jules Gounon, about 0.7 of a second, so the gap is remaining pretty constant, but this is all likely to change in something like a minute's time. The pit window will open, and then there will be this 10-minute window where every car is required to visit the pit lane. Well, you can see from the graphic there, there's 0.2 just come off that on that lap, so Niederhauser 0.2 closer. I would suggest that that gap is changing on every corner at the moment because they really are just running together on the circuit. Marciello, not quite as close to Niederhauser as he'd like to be, and he will be ready to pounce if those two should ever get together. the strategy will be for the teams when to bring their driver in. And I reckon, my money is that they're going to keep Marciello out quite a long time, keep him in that car to make up as much space as possible before he comes in and hands over to Jonathan Avedin. You're looking there at the car, number 20, and that's Nicky Katzberg in 4th place, still being hassled by Albert Costa Balboa. Balboa is having actually a relatively quiet race by his standards at the moment, but the night is young, as they say. The pit window is open, so this is where it gets really confusing, and all the cars will be visiting the pit lane within the next 10 minutes.
So let's see if anyone at the top half dozen or so decides to bite the bullet at the first opportunity. Yes, Niederhauser, I thought he was going in.
Dummy!
Teased it. Yes, he certainly did. I was going to make the point as well, that Katzberg-Costa Balboa battle. Sometimes when we approach the pit window, we think, okay, that battle may start to fade away the latter half of the stint. Definitely not the case when you've got Jesse Krohn and Jack Aitken waiting in the wings. If anything, it's very much an even tag team match that's going on there between those two for 4th and 5th.
Well, at the moment, I haven't seen anybody. Well, there's one, and it is the 19 car. So Rouget's into the pits, and Franck Pereira will be jumping into the seat of that Lamborghini. But I'm surprised with how few people have gone in. Right, Ezequiel Perez-Campagne is now in as well. Janis Fincher will be on standby to take over from him. But as things stand at the moment, so the majority of the cars are remaining out, even though this window is open. And strategically, I would expect Gounon to stay out to the absolute last minute. He's got a nice open track in front of him. He will not be in any hurry to hand over to Jan Marszałkowski.
One thing I would like to say as well, that wheel being held by Nicky Katzberg at the moment, you see that the Fanatec branding on it, you can actually buy that steering wheel. I don't mean something in the style of that wheel to put on your sim rig. I mean you can actually buy a wheel for your rig that will work either with your Fanatec setup or, if you're so lucky, an M4 GT3. Yeah. It costs a fair bit. I won't name it for the sake of those with the week of heart, but you know.
It felt my old Toyota. Probably not later. Right, we're looking down the view out of the window from Nicky Katzberg's perspective, and we're looking at Nicky Katzberg, and it's great. We see him going into the hotel turn. You see him picking up the curb and then running out wide on the hotel turn, tucking back in. You can see Raffaele Marciello in front of him, and you can see the concentration in his eyes as he's trying to hone in on that Mercedes. It's still Katzberg who's staying out. Jesse Krohn will be itching and waiting in the pits. There's a car that's picked up a bit of dirt. That might have been Katzberg, who gone a little bit wide. And now, just to point out this 22nd place, you see the little P graphic. That's the first one we've seen this year that has gone red. And that'll be Janis Fincher, who is going to incur the wrath of the stewards, because there is a 70-second minimum pit stop time from pit entry to pit exit for these cars. If they go below that 70 seconds, they are likely to pick up a penalty from the stewards, as we look at Sven Muller handing over to Joel Sturm. But Janis Fincher looks as though he has pitted and gone below that time, and he may well pick up a penalty from the stewards. So, the driver that we were bigging up, Joel Sturm, who had the debut of all debuts yesterday and brought the car home along with Sven Muller in 3rd place. We see the Janis Fincher car going wide, so it's an afternoon. Or was that with that was with Perez-Campagne at the wheel? I don't know. It was earlier on.
That was actually that was Fincher rejoining the circuit and finding Klaus Bachler trying to take turn 2 with a wide berth, and they kind of met in the middle.
So that is Elias Sepinen into the pits, and Frankie Bird looking to start his first race in the ADAC GT Masters after that crash in qualifying yesterday, meaning he didn't start the race at all. Another one, Mick Wiesofer, 0.0. Now, I don't know whether that will count or not. So in 19th place, 14th place, Mick Wiesofer, who's taken note from Konsta Lappalainen. These pit stops have to be timed to absolute perfection. If they're stationary in the pits for half a second too long, that is going to count. When 1 second separates the top 15, 16 on the grid, you know that the pit stops have to be absolutely perfect. Timing it from pit entry to pit exit to be 70 seconds is quite a skill, and the teams have to run it close to the mark. It looks as though both Wiesofer and Fincher will be under investigation unless the graphic has just been a little bit pessimistic. We will keep an eye on our timing screens and let you know. You can see the top 13 who haven't pitted yet. You can see Marciello, who just picks up a little bit of dirt coming out of the final turn 14, or heading towards it slightly. And you can see there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The first 7 cars all running in a row heading into turn 1 of this circuit.
Great to see the top 5 still so close at the moment. You've got 4 brands in the top 5. Mercedes represented twice there by Gunon and Marciello. Niederhauser in the Audi, Katzberg in the BMW, and Costa Balboa in the Lamborghini. And there you go, the first of the penalties. Penalty number 1 of the year when it comes to the pit stops. A penalty lap only. So that's not too much of a loss. You can actually see the penalty lap there on your screen on the, well, what would be the left-hand side of turn 3 from a driver's perspective, and the 14 car follows it too.
Just to explain the penalty lap, you can see that box there. If a driver receives a penalty lap, it's not a drive-through penalty. It means, as you can see there, they have to pass through that penalty box at a maximum 60 kilometers an hour. It gives them a penalty without it utterly destroying their afternoon. You've just seen Mick Wiesofer take his penalty lap. It's off the racing line. Here comes Janis Fischer also. What a great camera angle. That's a great pictorial illustration. So through the penalty zone they go. That is a penalty before last year, which is when the penalty box was introduced. It used to be a drive-through penalty, which would wreck an afternoon, as we see the number 10 and the number 28 going door to door. So that'll be, it's still Nicolas Cruton in that. Have we had a change on that yet? I haven't actually clocked that. I think it's
that's actually Ben Green being lapped by Christopher Hasse.
It is Ben Green, though,
a degree of aggression, I would say. Hasse, of course, on the salvage job after that spin earlier on, and we're going to see how that particular bollard met its demise. A big, loud BMW, turn 9, and farewell, sweet bollard.
Yes, we would say bollard nil, BMW 1, wouldn't we? And there's a good job the camera in the bollard, because we'd be needing a new camera, wouldn't we? Pit stop will be open for another just a little over 3 minutes. We've still got 12 cars that haven't pitted. We've had 2 that have gone below the minimum time and have visited the penalty box. Now Mapelli is into the pits, and that is the Max Paul switchover for the number 71 car. Max Paul taking over from Mapelli once he comes into the pits. He comes to a stop. Restrictions are such that only 2 nominated mechanics may come out and work on the car. They can only leave the garage once the car is stationary. It's engine off as we look at Daniel Yucatao. Yes, the devil incarnate himself driving that car. Daniel Yucatao will be handing over to Jan Marszałkowski, or has in fact handed over to Jan Marszałkowski, who currently runs in 14th place. What a wonderful picture that is.
Yes, I didn't know he was a Captain Hook in a regional stage production of Peter Pan. I'll ask him about that later.
We really must. So, yes, that's great to see some good humour from the team there. Our leader is still out, and our leading pack now, Marciello comes in. So quite late in the pit window. Here comes Marciello. Behind him, Costa Balboa. Looks like Feller's coming in as well. And behind that is that Drudy. It might be Matthias Drudy. Here is Jonathan Avedin. He made his debut yesterday in the ADAC GT Masters. They did a great job and came home in 4th place. They're looking to improve on that today. Avedin is going to have a lot of work to do. Marciello has done a great job so far. Where will they emerge in the pits compared to their rivals? Well, Marciello's out. He's a tall chap, is Raffaele Marciello. So the seat insert changes. Avedin gets in. Marciello is allowed to stick around to help the driver get belted in. Wish him good luck and plug him in. And then, there we go. Good luck, mate. Tighten the straps. He's whispering him, please don't waste all my hard work. Right, doors shut, and soon he will be out of the pits. So the first 5 are going to have to come in now because they wouldn't be able to do another lap. So here comes Jules Gunon, here comes Patrick Niederhauser. Behind them will be Katzberg, Norbert Seidler, and Christopher Hasse, who's still yet to stop. So Jules Gunon is going to be handing over to Fabian Schiller. I should think if you had a heart rate monitor on Fabian Schiller at the moment, it would probably be going absolutely mad, because this is big pressure. Effectively, the lead of the race being handed over to Schiller if he can get out of the pits in time. And here comes Niederhauser and Luca Engstler. Going to be getting ready to take over from him. Right, here's the leading car. Gounon hits the marks. 2 mechanics working. Get rid of the seat insert. And out of the car is Patrick Niederhauser in. Luca Engstler getting strapped in. Get all the safety precautions put in. And this is the first and second. Great that we've got this split camera. We can see who's going to be out first. Do not jump the clock, because if you do, you're going to get a penalty lap, and that could ruin your afternoon. Who is going to be moving first? At the front of the pit lane is Gounon. So, well, not Gounon, now Schiller. So, Engstler is moving. Will he get past that Mercedes? How? That is tight. Now, will that be classed as an unsafe release? It was very, very close. Schiller is in front of Engstler. It was as tight as it gets. Keep an eye on the... and Engstler is trying to overtake him in the pit lane.
I said he'd get his elbows out, but I didn't expect it to happen before they got back onto the circuit. Goodness me. Luca Engstler not taking that lying down at all. Let's see if he can reply, as going into 3rd place there is Avedin. So we've seen him where he filters out. He's just ahead of Jesse Krohn. So Jesse Krohn will get the tyres up to temp and then go mamba hunting.
So Yusuf Awega is up to 5th place, so he's got the jump on Jack Aitken. So the Emil Frey Lamborghini has dropped a position as a result of those pit stops. Let's have a look at that again. You can see the Mercedes of Schiller coming out, and that could well be, I mean, Engstler almost making contact with the side of the pit wall. That is something that the stewards may well take a look at in terms of unsafe release. Both of them were with, well, above the 70-second minimum pit stop time, so no issues there. But that was as close as it's possible to get coming out of the pits, and Engstler clearly a little bit riled by that, then tries to make a move coming out on the pit lane as well. So they rejoin on the outside of the hotel turn, and you can see Avedin in the top of your picture in the yellow Mercedes coming into turn 1. They're well ahead of him, but Jesse Krohn can't quite make it in front of the Mercedes. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, as you were before the pit stops. The loser in all of that was the Emil Frey Lamborghini in the hands of Jack Aitken.
Side by side, speaking of Aitken then, Schramm and Aitken side by side. Jack Aitken seething his way through into 5th position there. That was a move for position, and chasing Schramm now as well is Ovega, but for now he's trying to find a way back past Aitken. Aitken's going to have to go defensive into turn 3. Has a road potentially? No. Just about gets it stopped on the apex, and Schramm gets a bit unsettled. The other Audi gets through. Fairly textbook stuff there from Aitken and subsequently from Ovega. I just want to circle around quickly back to that pit lane moment that we saw there. It looks cut and dry. The one argument I would make, or the argument that I think that ZVO's chief litigator will make, is that Engstler was only 0.2 of a second above the threshold for the pit lane exit. Now, he would have lost more than 0.2 of a second backing out of that whole situation. So I think they may shrug and say, well, should he have even been there?
Well, that is as maybe, isn't it? As we're looking at the replay of Schramm getting through and making that challenge. So it can be down for the stewards. They will have lots of angles and lots of data that we certainly don't have in our studio. And they will make a decision if indeed there is any investigation at all. We have seen nothing on our timing screen. So as things stand at the moment, is very much as you were. Fabian Schiller leading the way from Luca Engstler, Jonathan Avedin, Jesse Krohn and Jack Aitken is part of this battle with Yusuf Ovega, Kim Louis Schramm, who has dropped back to P7 now, but they are all in a bit of a scrap for position. In the middle of that is also Thierry Vermeulen in the number 33 car running in 8th place.
Just looking at the front end of the Backler Porsche that we were just getting a view of from the back of Max Paul's Lamborghini. Still very much wearing the battle scars from the earlier incident between that car and the 84, now being driven by Frankie Bird. You can see that the splitter is really vibrating when the speed picks up. So I think suboptimal front aero for Klaus Backler is what he's inherited.
Some great camera angles here. We've also got the drone doing the laps of the circuit as well. Then you can see Christopher Haase at the front of that queue. He's done not Christopher Haase, Simon Vega has taken over from Christopher Haase. He's done a great job fighting from last place as a result of that spin. Max Paul behind, then Klaus Bachler. Ben Green working his way forwards. And also the number 84, Frankie Bird, he's also in there. But yes, Christopher Haase handed over that 28 car. Vega, now the young 16-year-old, has all that pressure on his shoulders that he's inherited.
Yes, let's see how he manages it. I certainly wouldn't want to be in that position at that age, or this age for that matter. And you can see the bodywork almost falling apart on Bachler's car there. It was pretty bad last time by, but it feels like every time they approach turns 11 through 13, the car looks like it's falling apart that little bit more, and you can see the splitter is actually lower on the right-hand side of the car.
Brilliant. They build them strong, don't they? Fabian Schiller leads the way, 1.8 seconds over Luca Engsler. This battle, though, is certainly keeping our attention. It is the battle for 16. Simon Vega with Max Paul behind, and Klaus Bachler, a driver who knows Porsches better than anybody else, really. Bachler has been driving Porsches for more years than I can count. Ben Green in there, and also Frankie Bird as well. Janis Fitcher and Christian Encroft bring up the rear of the grid, and that is as a result of the earlier incidents that we have seen. But this is certainly the close battle on the track at the moment. These 5 cars absolutely glued together. Now, Klaus Bachler will be the one you'd expect to probably make the move first. Max Paul, he gets better and better every time we see him. Simon Vega, so much pressure in his debut season in GT Masters, holding it all together. When that Audi, it's a good car, the Motorsport by Land motorsport car. Of course, Motorsport by Land, the defending champions in GT Masters, but Vega on a very steep learning curve. They bump through the chicane, and still nothing changes. It's a snake of cars. They're glued together, aren't they?
They really are, and it's well, it's all 5 brands represented in the same fight as well, isn't it? Because you've got the Audi leading the way, then it's the Lamborghini, the Porsche, the BMW and the Mercedes all in one queue. And you see there, that tally's already up over 6,200. So we're 10% of the way to our race lap for Wales in Africa total from last year. And we've still got 18 minutes of race 2 weekend 1 to go. Side by side, will we see the Lamborghini go all the way around the outside? Max Paul's going to give it a good go, but no.
Simon Vega, who was in GT Open for a while and is doing a great job just holding on to that position. I thought Max Paul might try and find a route round the outside, but it was just a little bit too far round. He did well not to let Klaus Bachler in when he made that move. So still staying very much as you were. How close is that? Don't ever tell me that the balance of performance isn't set brilliantly, that we have all these different cars, different capacities, some turbocharged, some naturally aspirated, mid-engines, front engines, all running together. Really competitive stuff, and this is why we love GT3 racing. Simon Vega on the steepest learning curve of his life, holding on to that 16th position. We're looking now back to the front. Jonathan Avedin in the man filter team Landgraf Mercedes with Jesse Krohn filling his mirrors. They've certainly found something on that BMW this weekend, and it has got very rapid. Jack Aitken still in 5th place behind them, and then Simon Vega's brother Yusuf in P6, also in the Audi.
I think Schubert have really benefited from the fact that we had a pre-season test here as well a couple of weeks ago, and now they've had 3 days of running. We're on day 3 of the weekend here at the Motorsportarena Oschersleben, and you know, you've got to remember the cars around them have all have in some cases as many as 7 years worth of data behind them. The Huracan and the current generation, second generation R8 have been around since 2015, the AMG since 2016, etc. etc. So in all cases, there's a lot more data to lean on. The M4 GT3 is very much a clean slate, while most of the ones around them have been evolved over many years at this point.
I was talking to Ben Green on Friday, and he said that they felt as though Oschersleben was the circuit that would suit the BMW least in the whole of the calendar. So we're thinking, if it's this good here, what's it going to be like later on in the year when they've developed it and they're at circuits that they feel suit the BMW better?
That's really interesting. BMW's concept has shifted substantially over the years. Back in the day, the Z4 was terrible on corners, or on fast circuits with long straights. But now it seems to be a very different ball game. And look at Renaud, I should say, all over the back of Avedin. Had a speculative look at turn 3, couldn't quite find a BMW nose's width, but now he's all over the back of the 48 Mamba car, the ADAC Motorsport Mercedes, and it is a wide car, but Avedin is going to have to get his elbows out. And well, to be honest with you, we've seen he can do it already. If you think back to race 1, the queue from third back was headed by the yellow Merc.
I should think that Raffaele Marciello's sat in the garage watching from behind a pillow at the moment. They got a P4 yesterday. We're hoping to improve on that today. At the moment, that third place, that final podium position, is looking very much under threat. Jesse Krohn is a vastly experienced pilot. Along with Nicky Katzberg, they got an 8th place yesterday, and they were looking to improve on that. They have eyes on the podium. Up ahead of them, Luca Engstler and Fabian Schiller are well clear, and we're looking into the pits of the Schubert Motor Racing team as Nicholas Cruton on the right hand side of the picture as well, looking on.
Move made. Look at this. They're side by side as they run towards turn 3. Krohn has snuck up the inside at T2. He's going to try and go all the way around the outside at T3, but not quite able to do it. Jesse Krohn on the attack. Avedin is really going to have to try and defend this for his life. As you said, Raffaele Marciello, I don't think it's going to be a pillow. It's going to be a double mattress up so he can shield himself from the television.
So, brilliant stuff from Jonathan Avedin. Great defensive driving. Jesse Krohn, he's starting to look impatient. He's got 13.5 minutes to find a way past the yellow Mamba. We want to see all the cars finishing the race, please, so let's not bin it. And Jesse Krohn once again bearing down on that car. Jack Aitken is well back down the road, so Jesse Krohn is not at risk of losing position if he takes a look on the outside. He's just got to get that big BMW on the outside of the even bigger Mercedes AMG. Aitken a little further back, and it looked like the back end getting a little bit loose on the Krohn car just as he came out of the corner onto the pit straight. They come picking up the slipstream as they head towards turn 1. Will he make a challenge into turn 1? It looks to me like he's just a little bit too far back to challenge that Mercedes in front of him. Under braking into Hotel they come, the scene of many a drama over the years. Will they take the same line? They do. Avedin just keeping it nice and tight into the corner. Out they come towards Hasseröder. It'll be heavy braking and then a 180-degree turn as they head then out towards the next corner. Looking to the inside. Still, Jonathan Avedin shuts the door. How much longer can he keep this pressure? It is his debut in the ADAC GT Masters, and it really is proving to be quite a lot of pressure from Jesse Krohn.
Krohn really is trying to... What he's really trying to do is he's trying to make sure Avedin has a really bad exit out of a corner by just putting the nose in there, trying to become the obstacle to the direct or to the quarter panel of Avedin, not making contact. That's not what I'm suggesting at all, but if Avedin has to open up the steering wheel, go slower around the corner to facilitate that, of course that opens up the door to Jesse Krohn. But each and every time, Avedin has just about managed to get the power down and get the full length of the Mercedes back ahead of the M4 GT3. But Jesse Krohn will want to get this move done. He's going to be expediting this one now because he has great pace in the M4 GT3. We've seen that, but he's not going to reach that potential and potentially reach the rear bumper of Luca Engstler if he doesn't make that move as soon as possible.
So as you can see, the lead duo you saw from your gapping on screen there have moved well clear of this fight, about 8 seconds clear up the road. There's certainly not much between third and fourth though. So the lead duo, Fabian Schiller and Luca Engstler leading the way. But this is the battle that has been raging on for so long. Jesse Krohn in the Schubert Racing BMW. He took over the wheel early on, in the midway through the race after a great start from Nicky Katzberg, and now he's challenging Jonathan Avedin, who took over from Raffaele Marciello. The two cars continue in third and fourth place. Again, they run through this chicane, which is up on turns 8 and 9. And then they head out towards McDonald's and then down towards the Shell. Sounds like the standard Saturday night in my village. And under braking they come and into the Alman curve, which is turn 12, and then towards Bauer, and then they'll be into Zeppelin, which will be 10-14.
I said that Jesse Krohn would want to expedite this battle because he'd try and go Luca Engstler hunting. It's not just that, because look at this. Aitken, even over the last minute, has got closer and closer to the back of Jesse Krohn in the battle for third place. The last thing Jesse Krohn wants to do is get into that horrible position where every time you attack, you then have to worry about defending, and Aitken is bringing some friends along as well. Yusufo Vega and Schramm both right there behind the ex-Williams F1 race driver, at least for a couple of races in 2020. And yeah, Aitken bringing the cavalry. Jesse Krohn wants to hop the fence.
Yes, the championship leaders, Yusuf Oega, are behind Jack Aitken, and behind them also Kim Louis Schramm, and Thierry Vermeulen in the number 33 car. The sponsorship from Verstappen.com. Of course, Thierry Vermeulen's father is the manager of Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen putting his weight behind that car. They're even adopting his number. No, not number 1, number 33, and great to see that as part of the GT Masters series this year. That'll be quite exciting when we get to Zandvoort, I have no doubt. Not as exciting as this, though, because Jonathan Avedin now has a queue of cars behind him. Can he hold on for a little over 8.5 minutes plus 1 lap? It is a tall ask, because those 5 cars are all lined up behind the yellow Mamba, and well, we'll find out shortly whether he's going to do it or not. But Jesse Krohn still looking eager. Jack Aitken, he's a wily old dog, and he is closing in on this as well.
I think Krohn's been driving through the mirrors a bit, at least in that last sector. He lost quite a bit of time actually to Avedin. You could see the gap go out by a couple of car lengths, and that's the thing. He's had free rein to just try and, you know, pick away past Avedin for the last, 20 minutes almost now. And unfortunately, the sands of time have very much run out on him, and suddenly Aitken looms incredibly large in the mirrors.
And of course, once Aitken's up on his back bumper, that will limit his opportunities to challenge Avedin for that third position, because then he risks giving that position away. As we look down from our drone camera, when the cars are running as close together as that, you risk getting railroaded if you move to try and get past. We haven't seen much of our leaders, but that's because they're a little way up the road. It's still Fabian Schiller leading the way, some 3.4 seconds over Luca Engstler, and Engstler doing a great job there. And then it's this battle here, the battle for third, with Jonathan Avedin at the front of the queue.
It might become more than, there may be more cast added to this particular stage production yet as well, because I notice every single lap Vermeulen and Marszalkowski in 8th and 9th place, they just seem to be that little bit closer. Before they're on the very edge of the horizon, and every single time we come onto a long straight, they're a couple of tenths closer. By the end of the race, it might well be, what, a 7-car train all contesting third place. And if it is a 7-car train on the final lap, I suggest it might get a little bit physical.
Yes, it might get a little bit lively, mightn't it? Vermeulen, you saw there in the Red Bull livery. Behind him in the pink BWT livery is Jan Marszalkowski, who had something of a baptism of fire yesterday, has done really well today, taking over from Daniel Juncadella early on and running in that 9th position. But as you've already said, closing in on this battle, and you just get the feeling that the fireworks aren't over yet. We've still got 6.5 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining, and you can see challenges going on all the way down through that pack. Kim Louis Schramm also putting the heat on Yusuf Ovega, and Kim Louis Schramm in the number 27 Audi for Rutronic Racing, and he just takes a little bit of look. Of course, Kim Louis Schramm is also a Rutronic driver. Would not go down well at all if those two got together.
No, definitely. That would be a political faux pas, to put it gently. Schiller across the line in the lead. Then we get a brief look at our leaders. Luca Engsler 3.5 seconds back. That gap has actually remained about consistent for a while. It was about 1.5 seconds a couple of laps after the pit stops. It's ever so slightly extended, but seems to be all status quo there for now. That 5, soon 7 car battle goes through turns 1 and 2, and Marszalkowski eager to try and find a way past Vermeulen. I'm not sure he's going to be able to get there imminently, although door open at turn 2, and well, that was nearly a meeting of the quarter panels, wasn't it?
So Jan Marszalkowski, it's his debut in the ADAC GT Masters this weekend. He's a real entertainer, and he is looking eager. Vermeulen leaves a gap on the inside. Marszalkowski drops in behind him. It's the battle for 8th place, as you can see from your screen there. It's an Audi versus a Mercedes. The fight continues, and the fights continue all the way through the field, and you can see Vermeulen going deep into the corner. That's all the gap that Marszalkowski needs. It's a drag race as they head towards the little chicane section, and still Vermeulen holds on. Daniel Yucadeo, he's smiling. I think that's more of a grimace than a smile. Yes, indeed, you might. He's looking at his hard work in the hands of Jan Marszalkowski, who's clearly having a ball out there, but would really like to get past the number 33 Audi. It's very much as you were. Thierry Vermeulen still in 8th place. Jan Marszalkowski still in 9th.
Vermeulen actually did very well there at turn 7 to retain that position, rather than trying to cut back across Marszalkowski when it was obviously too late. He just gave himself that wide run through the corner, got the power down earlier, and managed to surge back ahead of the Mercedes front end before turns 8 through 10, which is a very good going for Vermeulen. That is textbook. If you do run it wide at a corner like that, that's how you manage it.
So looking again from the drone as we head towards the Hasserode turn and around the lake at this picturesque Oschersleben Motorsport Arena. We are here for race 2 of a 14-race season for the ADAC GT Masters, racing for the title of German GT champion. Also running with a new fuel this year developed by Shell for the ADAC. It's called Shell Blue Gasoline 98 GT Masters, and it consists of approximately 50% renewable components, as we once again look at Jan Marszalkowski not being so conservative now into the same chicane where he almost got past him before. Vermeulen now has to give way. There's a gap on the inside. Marszalkowski comes through. They head along that back straight towards Shell. Under braking, it's going to be absolutely neck and neck. Vermeulen, though, is going to have to relinquish that position, and Marszalkowski, after all that challenging, is through. Now, will Vermeulen try and fight back? I get the feeling that Marszalkowski is going to say, thank you very much, I'll be out of here. Oh, and there is the remnants of the bollard.
Oh dear, not the day to be a bollard on the inside of turn 9.
There it goes.
No, actually, maybe just got a brush off the wing mirror, but yeah, to your point there, Vermeulen had no choice once he had to cut across like that, and there was a little touch here, yes. But otherwise pretty well managed between the two of them. Of course, this is maybe a little bit of comfort, not that he'll know it, to Schramm ultimately in 7th place at the back of the 3rd place queue, because these two have been knocking carbon fibre fragments off of each other, and courtesy of that they've held themselves up and probably now won't catch up to that long train for 3rd.
In all of that, we didn't see Ben Green moving up a position. He got past Salman Ovega. We've also lost Klaus Bachler, who's into the pits in the ID Racing Porsche, so not a great afternoon for Bachler and Renaud. They certainly aren't going to be adding points to their 5th place that they got yesterday. One person who is looking good for points, a maximum haul of points potentially, is that car there. Fabian Schiller, the German driver, leading the way for Drago Racing Team ZVO. The team have been formed over the winter, and Philip Zakowski, very much part of that team and one of the main organisers of it. Also, Jorg van Oomen involved there, and of course Zakowski, part of the Zak Speed family, who have been so prolific in GT Masters over the years. It's the debut for the team, and it is turning out to be quite a debut. Jules Gounod, well, he described, well, I won't tell you how he described his performance yesterday because it gets taken off air, but it's he was not happy, let's put it that way. Leading the race is more what he had in mind, and if Fabian Schiller can bring it home in 1 minute plus 1 lap to take the win, and is looking good for it, then I would suggest his language might be a lot less colourful.
It might be colourful in a more celebratory tone, but yes, nonetheless, yes, certainly looking good at the moment at the front of the order. Got to speak to the team manager for Drago ZVO earlier, and he said, you know, got the 2 cars in GT Masters, 2 cars in GT4, got lots of cars in Ferrari Challenge, and he said, very busy. And this was before qualifying. He said, but if someone gets high up the order, then all is well with me. And well, it certainly happened here in this race. They had a very good qualifying session courtesy of Jules Gounod, and Schiller has picked up the baton, although I'd suggest when you're leading a race of this caliber, the baton is more a stick of dynamite, but he's taken it on well, and at the moment he's managing things brilliantly. He's crossed the line about 15 seconds before the clock ticks down to 0, thus this is just starting the penultimate lap of the race.
And of course, the other of the Drago ZVO cars is the number 8 that you saw, the pink BWT car, being driven by Jan Marszałkowski and Daniel Junkadea. So if he can bring that home in 8th place, it really will be a good day at the office for Drago Racing Team ZVO. As already stated, we are on the penultimate lap, as was that Schramm getting a little bit down and dirty with it, heading in toward Hasseröder. In front of him, Yusuf Vega, and past the penalty box, not having to visit that on this occasion. But that fight continues to rage on. It's Fabian Schiller leading from Luca Engsler. Jonathan Avedin, now I'm just looking at the gap between him and Jesse Krohn, because Krohn has still not found a route past into that 3rd place. 7/10 is the gap, and it's not looking like the BMW is going to find a route past the Mercedes.
No, I think, as we get to see a replay here of the 22, that's Sturm in his continued adventures in his first weekend of GT Open, losing a little bit of cream. In fact, no, that was the Emil Frey car that came off, so that's a bit of wheel arch appendage off a Lamborghini available to the first marshal that fancies grabbing it.
The last lap board is out. You can see from the signs there, Fabian Schiller with a 3.4 second lead over Luca Engsler. He just needs to hold it together for the remainder of this lap, and he will be the winner of race 2 of the season. Luca Engsler, he was so dominant in the ADAC TCR Germany series last year. He actually had the championship sewn up with 1 round still to go, and we have been very excited to see him move into GT Masters, teamed up with Patrick Niederhauser. That is a potent combination, and he runs in 2nd place. We saw Raffaele Marciello starting the Team Landgraf Manfilter Mercedes. Jonathan Avedin has taken that over. That is the 1, 2, 3, but the headlines of this car there, the brand new team, Drago Racing Team ZVO in the Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. It was Fabian Schiller. It is Fabian Schiller at the wheel of that car. It was Jules Gounod who started off. He handed the wheel over to Fabian Schiller, and now he leads the way in the final part of the final lap. Here comes the Drago Racing Mercedes out of the final corner, turn 14. He can now see that checkered flag in front of him. The checkered flag waves. It's Fabian Schiller who wins race 2 of the season. Here comes Luca Engsler in 2nd. He'll be delighted with that. Jonathan Avedin ahead of Jesse Krohn, who had a little bit of a wobble coming out of 13, but it's Avedin who holds on for that 3rd place ahead of Jesse Krohn. Cross the line, and then it'll be Jack Aitken ahead of Kim Louis Schramm, and then Yusuf Vega, Jan Marszałkowski, and Thierry Vermeulen. there is an incident between cars 29 and 27. So that's Kim Louis Schramm and Yusuf Vega that is under investigation.
That's actually what we saw happening on. I think a couple of laps ago we got the replay out of turn 2. Vega was rather ran out of road on the exit of turn 2 by Kim Louis Schramm. So there may be a bit of post-race discussion with 6th and 7th place and how they managed that. But there's no discussion about the victory. Schiller and Gounon, absolutely sensational drive from both parties.
Great stuff. Now on the cool-down lap, Fabian Schiller. What a way to start your season in ADAC GT Masters, and indeed to start your career. Mercedes AMG junior driver, and he raced in the ADAC Formula Masters in 2013 and 14. It's his debut at GT Masters, although he does have experience in GT racing. You also saw Jules Gounon, and he is was the 2017 champion in ADAC GT Masters. The large audience here at the Oschersleben Motorsport Arena have been entertained. Jonathan Avedin did well. We've got a 1 second time penalty that has been awarded to car 27, Kim Louis Schramm, for forcing another car off the track. So looking at that promotes Yusuf Vega back up into 6th place.
It does. I still love, we've seen it again today. We had it yesterday as well, this new innovative method of making sure the car beats the scales, of brushing the grass between turn 10 and turn 11. Very generous of the teams and drivers of ADAC GT Masters to do the ground maintenance after the race.
Brilliant stuff. So what an entertaining race that has been. It was race 2 of the season. It's a 14 race season, lots still to go, but 43 laps in, and it was Fabian Schiller and Jules Gounon who won for Draeger Racing Team ZVO ahead of Luca Engstler and Patrick Niederhauser. Jonathan Avedin and Raffaele Marciello rounding out the top 3. The rest of the positions scrolling through your screen. So I'm not even going to bother doing the maths, but already there are connotations for the championship. Championships are won not necessarily by winning loads of races, but by consistently picking up points. And I should say that Marciello and Avedin will be quite happy with that. A 3rd and a 4th, that's the kind of consistency that you need to win a championship. We came very close last year to having the championship won by a team that hadn't won a single race. It didn't happen in the end, but it was very close. Consistency is what it's all about. We look at that ZVO Racing Mercedes parking up in the pit lane. There's Patrick Niederhauser, and he offers his congratulations to Luca Engstler. Engstler must be over the moon about that, of course. Such a historic family. The Engstler name, particularly famous in TCR racing. There's the points. So the current champions are at the top of the championship still. That's Vega and Feller. Avedin and Marciello just 7 points behind in 2nd. And Luca Engstler and Patrick Niederhauser just 8 points behind in 3rd. There are an awful lot of points available throughout this season. Gounon and Schiller just 8 points behind the leaders. And then from Pereira and Arthur Rougier, there's the rest of the points. But of course, it's 25 points for a win. There are 2 wins each, 2 races each weekend. So that's 50 points. There's also 3 points for pole position, so 56 points available each weekend. Luca Engstler beaming, and he is absolutely delighted with that.
And justifiably so. I mean, it's will be so validating to him. He'll have done all of the work in testing. He's put the miles in to get used to a GT3 Audi, a wildly different beast from last year's Hyundai TCR car. And, you know, you can test and see the data all you want. It's the racing that matters, and being there, about to walk up to the podium, getting that result is going to be a massive boost to his confidence.
So Raffaele Marciello and Jonathan Avedin, the 3rd was as good as it was going to get this weekend. It was as good as they could get in qualifying, and it didn't quite have the pace in that Mercedes AMG this weekend, but of course we visit so many different circuits with so much variety. We're off to the Red Bull Ring for the next round in Austria, which is a whole different ball game and may suit the Mercedes better than the Oschersleben circuit. The Audi is the useful weapon to have, though, isn't it? As we see from Luca Engster and Patrick Niederhauser. It was a Mercedes that won here in the hands of Fabian Schiller and Jules Gounon, but the third place one not quite as quick. There is the winning car, a replay of it crossing the line. Fabian Schiller, a nice replay as he receives that checkered flag. So, Mercedes from Audi, from Mercedes from BMW. Now, we weren't expecting that at the beginning of this weekend. They really have come on in leaps and bounds. Jack Aitken in sixth place, the highest placed, in fifth place, the highest placed Lamborghini. And then Youssef Avega and Kim Louis Schramm, both in Audis. And congratulations there to Fabian Schiller from Jules Gounon. So that was fun, wasn't it?
It was a very, very fast-paced hour here at the Motorsportarena Oschersleben, and there you see the points table as it stands.
So, as we've already seen, it's very, very close. Of course, we have only had 2 races, but 7 points is the gap between first and second in the championship, and then 4 drivers tying for the next position. Engster, Niederhauser, Gounon and Schiller all just 8 points adrift. And of course, with the potential of 28 points for a weekend, you only need to have one bad weekend or one good weekend, and that can all be turned around very, very quickly. Joel Sturm and Sven Muller in P7, the BMW in P6. And here are the rest of the points scrolling through. Jack Aitken and Robert Renaud rounding out the top 10. They are 26 points behind. And the remainder of the points scorers. Still plenty of racing to come. We have the Red Bull Ring in May. Then in June, we head to Zandvoort in the Netherlands for the big banked circuit there. And then we're off to the Nürburgring, the legendary Nürburgring in August for another 2 races. Then the Lausitz-Ring always provides great racing. Part of a little section of the oval on the Lausitz-Ring for round 5. Round 6 at Sachsenring, one of the most unique tracks you'll ever visit. And then it all comes to a close in October at the Hockenheim Ring. Focusing though on Oschersleben, there is the 3rd place car, the number 48, Raffaele Marciello, who handed up to Jonathan Avedin in the Manfilter Team Landgraf Mercedes AMG. 2nd, Luca Engster and Patrick Niederhauser, the Rutronic Racing Audi R8 LMS Evo 2. But taking the win for Draeger Racing Team ZVO, Fabian Schiller, Jules Gounon in the Mercedes AMG GT3. So, after a test session here a couple of weeks ago, and then a couple of days pre-season testing, it's time to say goodbye to Oschersleben for this year. But first, we have the podium presentations, and then we will pack everything up and head to Austria to the Red Bull Ring. Raffaele Marciello and Jonathan Avedin not looking especially ecstatic with their podium, it has to be said. Luca Engster and Patrick Niederhauser for Rutronic Racing feeling very happy, and sponsorship from Liqui Moly there.
Yes, he has to give them a shout out. His dad was driving cars with those colours on it about 25 years ago, so there's a long-standing relationship there.
I have to say, though, looking at Jonathan Avedin and Raffaele Marciello, they don't look like they've just scored a podium. They look pretty disappointed. And knowing what I know about Raffaele Marciello, anything other than the top step to him is a failure in his book. In my book, it's a flipping result what he's done today. But there's Youssef Avega just grabbing a drink, and Patrick Niederhauser there. And Niederhauser, who put the car on pole position, but couldn't quite bring it home for the top step of the podium. But still, 2nd place, pretty good, I would say. And Jules Gounon, I have to say, whenever he starts at the front of the grid, he normally goes on to win it. He is a very consistent driver. And Fabian Schiller, another of those young drivers who has such a great mentor in the form of Jules Gounon. Fabian Schiller learning so much from the master that he is with.
And Gounon put in so much hard work to get into the sport at this level. It's great to see him always succeeding. He worked very hard to be where he is today.
So onto the podium come the Manfilter Team Landgraf duo of Jonathan Avedin from South Africa and Raffaele Marciello, who is a Swiss-Italian, I think we'll say, and another Swiss driver, Patrick Niederhauser, alongside Luca Engsler. But the top step of the podium goes to Fabian Schiller and Jules Gounon. And representative from Drago Team ZVO getting their first trophy as a team, the national anthem now. So national anthem done and dusted. Now for the trophy presentation. And there's Herman Tomczyk, the ex-sport president of the ADAC, once again presenting the trophies. Lars Suchka presenting second place. And then the third place to the Manfilter Team Landgraf, Michael Blaufus from Pirelli.
Yes, I spoke to him earlier.
You chat to him over lunch, weren't you? Yes, I remember that. So, yes.
A little bit about tyres and a little bit about tuna. It was a very good conversation.
Tuna? Yes. The two are not even remotely related. And there's a trophy, the first for Drago Racing Team ZVO. Undoubtedly not the last. They're going to need a fairly big trophy cabinet on this showing. So we pose for the photos, and the celebrations will commence very shortly. We remind you again of the championship standings. It is early days. It is race 2 that we've just witnessed. That means there are another 12 races to go this season. The champagne fight at the moment. Get the boss, pin him down, give him the large, and there may be some sore heads in that team by tomorrow morning.